tax. Class, let's continue your discussion on donor's tax. Discuss naman natin class is taxable donation. So ano yung mga donations na subject to donor's tax? Meron tayong 6, right? Number 1 is a direct donation. Direct donation of property. Yung example natin kanina. So let's say is A, the donor, nag-donate siya ng land kay B. Okay? As a gift. Okay? So this is an example of direct donation. So subject to donor's tax yan. Number 2 is donation through creation of irrevocable trust. Ayan. Donation through creation of irrevocable trust. Sir, paano yan? Let's say class A, nag-donate siya ng condo units kay B. Kaya lang si B minor pa. No? Hindi pa niya kayang i-manage yung condo units. So, ang ginawa ni A, ayan, condo units, pinadaan niya sa isang trust. Okay? So, si trust, well, alam natin, yun yung third party. No? Siya yung nagmamanage ng condo units. Right? In behalf of B. Right? So, class, actually, medyo na-discuss natin yung trust dun sa income tax. Pero yung diniscuss natin dun, class, related yun dun sa income na ma-generate ng assets. Okay? Yung income na ma-generate, rental income sa condo units na ma-generate, magiging subject siya sa income tax. Yun yung diniscuss natin dati. Yung di-discuss natin ngayon, class, yung pag-transfer ni A ng condo units to B. Okay? Dapat irrevocable, ha? Irrevocable. Ibig sabihin, hindi pwedeng mabawi ni A. Tina-transfer na niya yung title ng condo units kay B. Okay? Subject sa donor's tax yun. Ulitin ko, ha? Yung pag-transfer ng title ng condo unit to B, yun yung subject sa donor's tax. Yung income, rental income na ma-generate sa condo units, yun yung subject sa income tax. Gets? Okay. Let's go to number 3. Number 3 class is condonation of debt. Condonation of debt is basically forgiveness of debt. Alright? So let's say is A, nagpa-loan siya kay B. Ayan. Amounting to, let's say 100,000. O sabi ni A kay B, o sige B, wag nung bayaran yung utang mo sa akin. Kinondone ko na, finorgive ko na yung debt mo. Yung pag-forgive na yun, yung 100,000 na yan, subject to donor's tax yan. Gets? Okay. Kasi class, kung maalala nyo, meron tayong related na concept na in-explain dati dyan under gross income. So gross income, let's say si B, nag-perform siya ng services, magiging compensation income yun. Alala nyo yan? Pag naman si B, let's say it's a shareholder, no? Finorgive ni A, let's say it's corporation, magiging dividend income yun. Alala nyo yan? Okay. So ito, dapat walang bayad si B. Wala siyang ginawa. Okay? Gifted, donation yan. Okay? In that case, yung 100,000 na yan, forgiveness of debt or condonation of debt is subject to donor's tax. Let's go to number 4. Ito, listen very carefully. Actually, yung 4 and 5, hindi pa pala. Yung 5 and 6 pala. Yung 4 natin is transfer for insufficient consideration. Ito yung diniscuss natin kanina. Whenever the selling price is lower than the fair market value. Okay? Pero class, this rule applies to personal properties. Okay? Personal properties and real properties. Okay? Pero class, yung real properties na to, except real properties subject to 6% CGT. Okay, na-explain ko na kanina. Bakit, sir? Kasi pag subject to 6% CGT, wala tayong issue kahit mababa yung selling price and fair market value. Because ang rule natin dito, 6% based on higher between selling price and fair market value. So, ibig sabihin, class, ang pinag-uusapan natin dito, yung personal properties and real properties na ordinary assets, okay, and other capital assets. Naalala niyo yung other capital assets? Yung meron niya na, yung rules natin sa capital assets. So again, ang exception lang dito, kapag yung asset is subject to 6% CGT, which is basically sale of real property. Let's have an illustration. So si A, nag-donate siya ng car kay B. Alright? Nag-donate ng car kay B. Hindi pa nag-donate, nagbenta pala. Okay? Nagbenta ng car sa A kay B. Alright? Ngayon, yung fair market value of the car is 3 million. And then, yung selling price of the car is 2 million. Okay? Yung cost ni A sa car is 1.5 million. Alright? Ngayon, class, yung difference ng fair market value and selling price na 1 million, subject yan sa donor's tax. Okay? Way yan ni BAR para hindi nyo i-manipulate yung usapan nyo. Kasi para ma-minimize yung tax, kapag hindi ginawang rule ni BAR yan, lagi nyo i-understate yung selling price. Okay? So sabi ni BAR, sige, pag mababa yung selling price sa fair market value, yung difference yan, subject to donor's tax. Ngayon, class, yung difference between the selling price and cost na 500,000, we know, ito yung subject to income tax. Got it? Wala kang kawala kay BIR. Alright? So, yun yung transfer for insufficient consideration. Okay. Now, yung next two items, listen very carefully. Ito yung medyo nakakalito dyan, no? Actually, nasa G-sheets natin yan. So, basahin natin sa G-sheets. Okay, number 1, gross gift tayo. Okay. Gross gift, number 1 is direct gift. Ayan, yung first one, direct donation. Gift through creation of irrevocable trust. So, class, pag ito revocable, hindi yan taxable. Dapat irrevocable. Condonation of death, transfer for insufficient consideration. Number 5 is specific renunciation of inheritance. Sir, ano ibig sabihin yan? Lagyan natin muna. Specific renunciation of inheritance. Okay? Ngayon class, yung inheritance no, or succession, i-discuss natin yan sa estate tax. Right? Dito, para mas mag-gets mo lang yan, bibigyan na muna natin ng example. Okay? Specific renunciation of inheritance. Alright, so for example class, si Mr. X, namatay siya. Okay? Ang tawag natin kay Mr. X, pag namatay siya, well, decedent. Tama? Now, let's say may naiwan si Mr. X na estate amounting to 3 million. Okay? Now, yung 3 million na yan, subject to estate tax yan. Right? And then, ang ginawa ni Mr. X, meron siya mga tagapagmana. Ang tawag doon, mga heirs. Right? So, meron silang may inherit yung estate. Inheritance nila yan. So, let's say meron tatlong heirs si Mr. X. Ayan, si A, okay, si B, and si C. Ayan, tatlong heirs. So, syempre, hati-hati sila dyan. Tigo 1 million yan. 1 million kay A, 1 million kay B, 1 million kay C. Okay, so pag, let's say, sabi ni C, specific renunciation, sabi ni C, hindi ko natatanggapin yung 1 million na inheritance ko, na mana ko. Okay? Sa'yo na yan A. Yun sabi ni C, hindi ko nakukunin yung mana ko, binibigay ko na yan kay A. Alright? So, mangyayari dyan, si C, wala siyang mana. Tama? Mapupunta kay A. O si A, meron siyang 2 million. Si B, may 1 million. Si C, may 0. Ang tawag natin dito, class, is specific renunciation. Ibig sabihin, class, ini-specify nung isang heir, si C, o ni C, ini-specify niya kung kanino mapupunta yung inheritance. Okay? Kaya very important yung word dito na specific renunciation. Alright? Sige, meron pang isa. What if general naman? General renunciation. Okay? Pag general renunciation, ang sabi ni C, o sige, hindi ko natatanggapin yung 1 million. Yun ang sabi niya. Sa inyo na yan. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, class, yung 1 million na yan, maghahati si A and B. So, si A, meron siyang 1 million plus 500,000, 1.5 million. Si B, meron siyang 1.5 million. Si C, meron siyang 0. General renunciation, hindi niya in-specify na kung kanino mapupunta yung minana niya. Alright? So, in that case, class, pag specific, again, taxable siya. Lagay ko dito, taxable. Kapag general renunciation, exempt from donor's tax. Got it? May exception dyan. Unless there are only 2 heirs. Let's say, dalawa lang yung tagapagmana, si A and B. Walang sense kung walang difference yung specific and general. Kasi pag sinabi ni B, hindi ko kukunin niya, automatic, kay A yun. Okay? So, pag dalawa lang yung heirs, hindi yan subject to donor's tax. Okay? So, lagi ito exempt. Okay? So, to summarize, pag specific renunciation, taxable. Pag general, non-taxable. Ganito mo rin siya isipin, class. Yung 1 million na yan, si C talaga yung may-ari niyan. Kasi tagapagmana siya. Meron siyang legal ownership dun sa 1 million. Since binibigay niya yan sa kay A, let's say kapatid niya, okay, dinodonate niya. Parang gano'n nangyari dyan. Bibigay niya as gift. Got it? Okay. So, okay na number 5. Ito, number 6. So, yung dalawang concepts na ito yung medyo nakakalito ngayon, no? Kasi hindi pa natin di-discuss yung succession. Basahin natin dito. Renunciation by the surviving spouse of his or her share in the conjugal partnership or absolute community after the dissolution of the marriage in favor of the heirs or the deceased spouse or any other persons. Siyempre, wala tayong naintindihan doon. Okay? Magbibigyan lang tayo ng illustration. So, lagay ko muna dito, class. Renunciation by the surviving spouse, SS na lang. Renunciation by the surviving spouse of his or her share in the conjugal, nakalagay dyan, in the conjugal or community property. In the conjugal or community property. Okay, so again class, pagdating natin sa estate tax, which is our next topic, magdi-discuss tayo ng succession, okay? Di-discuss din natin class yung mga property regimes. So actually, meron tayong tatlo. Bibigyan natin ng idea, okay? Di-discuss natin dun yung absolute separation of property, yung conjugal partnership of gains, and absolute community of property. Okay, next time na yun, okay? Di-discuss natin dun class yung legitim, okay, mga ganung concepts. So sa estate tax na yun, sa donor's tax, muna para hindi ka malito. Now, in the meantime, ito lang muna yung mga kailangan mo tandaan yung class. Okay? Surviving spouse na. Surviving spouse. So let's have an illustration. Si Mr. X, okay? Namatay si Mr. X. Okay? Decedent siya. May naiwan siyang estate amounting to 3 million. Okay? Ganun pa rin. Okay? Pero sa scenario natin na to class, may asawa si Mr. X. Dito wala. Example lang, wala siyang asawa dyan. Dito meron. Okay? Si Mrs. X. Ngayon, meron siyang dalawang anak. Si A, si B, and yung asawa niya, si Mrs. X. Ayan, iyan yung mga tagapagmana ni Mr. X. Right? Si A, si B, and Mrs. X. Dalawa yung gawin nating scenarios. For example, class, yung case 1 natin, let's say yung estate na yan, na 3 million, yung estate yun yung mga properties na naiwan ni Mr. X. Let's say it's a separate or exclusive property of Mr. X. Okay? Next time, i-discuss natin yan. Pero basically, pag sinabi mong separate or exclusive property ni Mr. X, siya yung may-ari ng 3 million. Siya lang. Alright? Kapag yung isa naman class is conjugal or community, okay? Same lang ibig sabihin niya, conjugal or community. In the meantime, isipin mo, jointly owned yan. Jointly owned by the spouses, by Mr. X and Mrs. X. Okay? So ulitin ko, pag separate or exclusive, 100% owned by Mr. X. Alright? Pag sinabi mong conjugal or community, 50% lang yung ownership ni Mr. X. Hati sila. Or jointly owned, Mr. X and Mrs. X, 50-50 sila. Dito muna tayo, so separate, 100% owned ni Mr. X. Ano mangyayari dyan? Well, hati-hati yan. 1 million kay A, 1 million kay B, 1 million sa asawa niya, kay Mrs. X. Ngayon, pag sinabi ni Mrs. X, sige, hindi ko tatanggapin yung 1 million. Sa'yo na yan, A. Okay? Minus 1 million, 0 yung makukuha ni Mrs. X. Si A, 2 million makukuha niya. So, 2 million kay A, 1 million kay B, 0 kay Mrs. X. Yung rules dito, class, same lang as rules na diniscuss natin sa number 5. Okay? Wherein, kapag specific renunciation, sinabi ni Mrs. X, sige, sa'yo na yan A. Alright? Taxable yan. Tama? Pag general renunciation, sinabi ni Mrs. X, sige, hindi ko nakukunin yung 1 million na yan. O, tigo 1, magiging 1.5 yan. Okay? So, in that case, pag general, non-taxable. So, ulitin ko, kung ano yung rules na natutunan natin sa number 5, ito yung rules kapag separate or exclusive property. Got it? Now, actually, pinag-uusapan natin sa number 6, yung conjugal or community property. Okay? Ganito kasi class yan. Yung 3 million na yan, since conjugal siya, jointly owned yan by Mr. X. Ganito siya. Ganito mangyari dyan. Yung 1.5M, kay Mr. X yan. Tama? Yung another 1.5M, kay Mrs. X yan. Does that make sense? Okay. Ngayon, namatay si Mr. X. Meron siyang tagapagmana, si A, si B, and si Mrs. X. Okay? Si A, di-divide natin by 3 yung 1.5 million. Kasi, yan lang yung owned ni Mr. X. Merong 500,000 si A. Si B, meron siyang 500,000. Okay? Si Mrs. X, may 500,000 siya. Does that make sense? 1.5 million divided by 3, 500,000 yan. Ngayon, merong 1.5 million si Mrs. X, tapos meron pa siyang 500,000. So, ibig sabihin, 2 million na siya, nakuha niya. 2 million yung owned niya. Tama lang? So, 500 kay A, 500 kay B. So, that's 1 million, 2 million kay Mrs. X. Okay? So, lagyan natin dito. Ngayon, class, kakopy ko lang ha. So, 500,000 yung napunta kay A, 500,000 yung napunta kay B, kay Mrs. X, ang nakuha niya, meron siya 1.5 million na siya talaga yung may-ari, plus yung minana niya sa asawa niya, kay Mr. X, meron 2 million si Mrs. X. Okay? Kaya total of 3 million. Now, balik tayo dito. Basahin natin. Renunciation by the surviving spouse, sino yung surviving spouse? Si Mrs. X. Of his or her share in the conjugal or community property. Ano yung share ni Mrs. X dito? Ito, 1.5 million. Okay? Ito yung pinag-uusapan natin, yung 1.5 million. Yung 1.5 million plus, pag ni-renounce yan ni Mrs. X, okay? Ibig sabihin, sinabi niya, sige, sa inyo na yan. Okay? Whether specific or general. Ito yung pinaka-important dito. Whether specific or general. Okay? Whether specific or general, subject to donor's tax yan. Lagi ko na check. Taxable yan. Okay? Bakit, sir? Kasi class, in the first place, si Mrs. X talaga yung may-ari ng 1.5 million. Hindi si Mr. X. Okay? Hati sila. Tigo 1.5 sila. So, ibig sabihin, yung 1.5, hindi yan nakuha ni Mrs. X dahil namatay si Mr. X. Hindi ganun. Dati pa lang, buhay pa si Mr. X, hati na agad sila dyan. Tig 1.5 na sila. So in that case, whether specific or general, regalo ni A yun, or regalo ni Mrs. X yun, or donation yun, kay A at B. Okay? Pag sinabi ni Mrs. X, sige, yung 1.5, sa'yo na yan A. Subject to donor's tax yun. Pag sinabi ni Mrs. X, yung 1.5, sige, sa'yo na yan. General. Subject pa rin to donor's tax yun. So ulitin ko, kaya dito class, walang nakalagay na specific. Dito nakalagay specific renunciation. Dito nakalagay renunciation lang. Ibig sabihin, whether specific or general. Okay, ulitin ko. Pag conjugal or community property, ibig sabihin, jointly owned siya. Yung renunciation, whether specific or general, magiging subject yan to donor's tax. Alright. Malinaw ba yung class? Okay. So, ito lang yung mahirap na concept na intindihin. Pero hopefully, na-gets nyo yun. Ha? Okay. So, yun yung mga taxable donations natin. Kung titignan mo class yung G-sheets natin, continue natin yung pagbabasa, meron naman dyan mga exemptions. No? Ito yung mga hindi subject to donor's tax. Alright? Basahin natin. Hiniwalay ko yan. Yung una, under the tax code. So, makikita natin sa tax code. Basahin na natin class. Gifts made to or for the use of the national government. Focus ka lang sa mga naka-bold na words. Okay? So, pag nag-donate ka sa government, actually, whether national or local government yan. Pag nag-donate ka sa government, hindi yung subject to donor's tax. Okay? Siguro para din ma-encourage na mag-donate sa government. Okay? B, gifts in favor of an educational, charitable, religious, accredited NGOs. Familiar ba? Yan yung naalala nyo sa deductions natin. Di ba meron tayo dun na yung deductions na fully deductible and meron tayong subject to limit. Basta tingnan natin yun. Sa deductions na sheet, meron tayo dito na, ayan, so yung mga NGOs, nakita nyo yan, yung charitable and other contributions, Donations to Philippine government, yung pangatlo class, donations to accredited NGOs. Yan. Accredited by, ayan, yung mga DSWD, DOST, blah, blah, blah. Yung mga ganyang class, hindi yan subject to donor's tax. Okay? Next is under special laws. So, familiarize yourself lang. Okay? Ito yung mga items na babasahin mo before the board exam. Again, huwag mo i-memorize. Gusto ko lang, basahin mo lang siya. Archives of the National Historical Institute, Development Academy of the Philippines, Integrated Bar, IRI, or International Rice Research Institute, Intramuros Administration, Museum of the Philippines, National Library, National Museum, National Commission, Red Cross, Philippine Normal University, Ramon Magsaysay Foundation, University of the Philippines. Pag nag-donate ka sa mga yan, organizations na yan, hindi yan subject to donor's tax. Okay, exempt yan. Meron pang isa. Political contributions, okay, under the Omnibus Election Code, okay, basahin natin. As a rule, any contribution given to candidates, political parties, or coalition of parties are not subject to donor's tax. So pag election, di ba yung mga nag-donate sa mga candidates, hindi yung subject to donor's tax. Pero may dalawang strict na requisites dito, okay? Dalawa. Number one, the contribution is for campaign purposes. Dapat for campaign, doon gagamitin yung donate mo na pera. Number two, ito very important, donation is duly reported to the COMELEC. Dapat sasabihin mo kay COMELEC yan, i-report mo sa COMELEC, no? Otherwise, kapag hindi ganun, magiging subject to donor's tax. Okay? The campaign contribution is subject to donor's tax on the part of the donor if such contributions are not reported to the COMELEC. So, ulitin ko lang, under the tax code, pag donation to the government, donation to mga NGOs, meron tayong special laws, and meron tayong yun sa election, no? Sa campaign. Siyempre, class, in addition yan dito. For example, ang dinonate mo is real property na subject to capital gains tax. O walang donor's tax yan kasi nga hindi siya transfer for insufficient consideration because subject yan sa higher between selling price and fair market value. Ano pa? Kapag general renunciation, exempt din yan. Okay? Hindi yan subject to donor's tax. Ano pa? Ito, yung example natin kanina. Kapag, whether specific or general, subject to donor's tax yan. Kapag si surviving spouse, same rules sila. So kapag specific, no, under separate or exclusive property, hindi rin yan subject to donor's tax. Okay, so in addition to this, meron tayong tatlo pa ha. Ulitin ko, pag donate mo real property na subject to 6% CGT, hindi yan subject to donor's tax. Pag general renunciation, hindi yan subject to donor's tax. Okay? Sige, meron din tayong void donations. Pag void donations, walang donation in the first place. Okay? Hindi niya na-meet yung mga requisites dun sa donation. Number one, or letter A, donation between spouses, hindi yan pwede, no? Except minor gifts. Donations between persons who were guilty of adultery or concubinage at the time of donation. Okay, donation between persons found guilty of the same criminal offense, donations to the public officer or by reason of office, donation, siguro yung D ba, form of bribery yan, so hindi yan pwede. Donations to incapacitated persons, okay? Well, actually, yung donations to incapacitated persons, unless, syempre, supervised by the guardians. Okay? Kasi ang requisites natin sa valid donation kasi class, si donor dapat capacitated, okay? Ngayon, kapag si donee incapacitated, okay, unless, no? Or dapat supervised by the guardian. Kapag ganun, okay lang yan. Right? Donations of future property. I believe na nasa obligo yun. Bawal mo i-donate yung future, let's say future inheritance. Bawal yan. Okay? Sige. Ayan. So yun muna. Let's go to problem number 2. Sagutan natin yung problem number 2. Pwede ko na ba itong erase class? Okay, erase ko na to ha. Doon tayo sa problem number 2. Okay, pag nakafollow kayo sa problem number 2, I believe na kayang-kaya nyo na yung donor's tax. So dahil na naman yung computation ng donor's tax. So kailangan natin mag-practice. So maraming transactions yung problem 2. Ayan. So I think 2 years yata. 2 years worth of transactions yan. Sige, so let's read number 2. Requirements sa ating class is determine the donor's tax payable in each date of donation for years 2020 and 2021. Mr. and Mrs. X made the following donations from the conjugal properties. Ano ibig sabihin ng conjugal? Jointly owned. Okay? So ang may-ari nito si Mr. X and Mrs. X. Hati sila, 50-50. Unless otherwise stated, for taxable years 2020 2021. 2020, January 15 to A, their legitimate son, for successfully passing the SIPALE, car worth 1.2 million, with 300,000 unpaid mortgage, 50% of which was assumed by A. Okay? Si A yung son, right? So, paano gagawin natin dyan, sir? Well, sabi dyan sa problem, conjugal property daw yan, unless otherwise stated. So, separate taxpayer dyan class, si Mr. X and Mrs. X. Ang dami yan ha, kapag conjugal property. So, ganito gagawin ko dyan. Start muna tayo with year 2020. Anong date yung class? It's January 15. January 15, lalagay ko dito Mr. X and then dito si Mrs. X. Ayan, Mr. X and Mrs. X. Okay, so ganito class mag-compute niyan. Lagay muna natin yung gross gift. Gross gift. Okay? Yung gross gift, basically, yan yung 1.2 million. Pero conjugal property yan, i-divide natin by 2. Tig 600,000 si Mr. X and Mrs. X. 600,000 and 600,000. Okay? Plus, tatanggalin natin yung mortgage. Because yung mortgage na yan, i-assume ni donee, ni A. Okay? So, since A yung mag-a-assume niyan, ibig sabihin class, hindi mo talaga donate yung portion na yan kay A kasi babayaran ni A yan. Does that make sense? So, hindi yung donation. Tama? So, yung inassume ni A, ni donee, tatanggalin natin yun. Pero syempre, yung inassume ni donor na additional 50%, donation yun kasi ang sasagot niyan si Mr. and Mrs. X. 300,000 times 50%, that's 150. Since conjugal yan, divide natin by 2. 150,000 divided by 2, 75,000. So, 75,000 for Mr. X, 75,000 for Mrs. X. Okay? Ang tawag natin dito, class, ito yung net gift natin. Alright? Net gift natin is 600 minus 75, you have 525,000. 525,000. And then after dito, class, tatanggalin natin yung exempt. Huwag mo kakalimutan yung exempt na 250. Okay? So marami nakakalimutan nito. 250, huwag mo kakalimutan yan. Deduct natin yan. We will get here the taxable gift. Alright? So 525 minus 250, you get 275,000. Okay? Yung taxable gift natin, 275,000. Multiply natin by, so again, pag sabi kong gift, pag sabi kong donation, magkamukha lang ibig sabihin ko doon, ha? Times 6%, yun yung flat rate natin, the donor's tax rate, times 0.06, you get 16,500. Donor's tax natin, class, for January 15, 2020, ito yung donor's tax payable natin, 16,500 for Mr. X and Mrs. X. Hiniwalay natin yung computation because this is a conjugal property. Okay, let's move on to March 15. March 15 to B, brother of Mr. X, his separate property. Pag separate property ni Mr. X, siya lang may-ari nun. Okay? Siya lang yung donor, hindi si Mrs. X. On account of marriage, 6 months ago with the condition that donee will pay the corresponding donor's tax. Okay? Class, dito, ang mangyayari dyan, di ba, si donee daw yung magbabayad ng donor's tax. Sa point of view ni BIR, si donor pa rin yung liable. Okay? Ang mangyayari dyan, i-refund na lang ni donee si donor. Nakuha mo yan? So, personal or private agreement nila yun. Pero sa point of view ni BIR, si donor yung may liability dyan. Okay? So, let's go to March 15. Lagay ko dito, March 15. Ngayon, si Mr. X lang yung taxpayer natin dyan. Okay? Ang gagawin ko dito, class, gross gift muna ulit. So, yung gross gift natin here is 1 million. Okay? And then, lalagay mo yung prior gift. Huwag mo kalimutan yung prior gift. Bakit, sir? Kasi cumulative yung computation ng donor's tax. Okay? Very important concept. Cumulative for the year, yung computation ng donor's tax. Nasaan yung prior gift ni Mr. X? Ito kasi yung gagamitin mo dyan. Yung 525,000. Siyempre, dapat nakaless na yung mortgage. Okay? Kasi hindi mo naman talaga donation yung mortgage na yan. So, yung prior gift natin is 525,000. 525,000. Yung total gift natin, class, is 1,525,000. And then, huwag mo kakalimutan tanggalin yung exempt na 250. Okay? Remember that, always. So, 1,525,000 minus 250, you get 1,275,000. Yung taxable gift natin, class, 1,275,000. Multiply natin by 6%. Okay? 1,275,000 times 6%, you get 76,500. Plus, remember, ito yung donor's tax due natin. Kasi cumulative tama? Pero may binayaran na tayo before. Noong January 15, nagbayad na tayo. Tatanggalin mo yan. Ito yung paid natin na 16,500. Okay? 76,500 minus 16,500, you have 60,000. 60,000, ito yung donor's tax payable natin. Take note, yung requirements natin sa problem is donor's tax payable. So, sagot natin is 60,000. Get it? Parang kung maalala nyo sa income tax, pag nagko-compute tayo sa corporation, di ba, quarterly yun? Cumulative, parang ganito, di ba? Mina-minus natin yung nabayad na natin before to get the payable, 60,000. Alright, so let's go to, anong date na tayo? Let's go to June 15. This is still year 2020. Okay, June 15. Lagay natin dito si Mr. X and then si Mrs. X. Okay. Let's go to June 15 to see daughter of Mrs. X by former marriage on account of her marriage 12 months ago out of Mrs. X separate property. So, in this case, si Mrs. X lang yung donor natin. How much yan? Binigay niya is 700,000. Tama? So, gross gift, ganun pa rin. Gross gift, Mrs. X, 700,000. Don't forget na isama yung prior gift. Nasaan yung prior gift ni Mrs. X? Ito. 525,000. Total gift natin, class, is 700 plus 525. You have 1,225,000. Don't forget to deduct the exempt amounting to 250,000. Okay? So, yung taxable natin, 1,225 minus 250, you get 975,000. Alright? 975,000, multiply natin yung class by 6%. Since, ayan, multiply natin times 0.06, 58,500. 58,500, ito yung donor's tax due natin. Tama? Ngayon, nagbayad si Mrs. X na 16,500. Yung binayaran niya before, 16,500. 58,500 minus 16,500, you get 42,000. The income tax payable, donor's tax payable ni Mrs. X is 42,000. Okay, so that's for June 15. Let's go to next date natin, class, is July 15 to D, Mr. X's brother, a car worth 3 million with an agreement that Mr. X may revoke the donation anytime he wishes. Pag revocable, wala kang transfer of ownership, wala kang donate. Okay? Again, dapat irrevocable. Pag revocable, exempt yan from donor's tax. So, lagay mo dyan sa July 15, exempt. September 15 to ABC Learning, an accredited NGO, a land with a fair market value of 2.4 million. Kakasabi lang natin, isa sa mga exemptions, contribution to the government, contribution to accredited NGOs. So September 15 is exempt from donor's tax. November 15 to E, a relative, a family car worth 1.6 with 400 unpaid mortgage assumed by E. So inassume ni Donnie. Okay, November 15, this is a taxable donation. So tingnan natin class. So since silent, so ibig sabihin conjugal property yan. So both si Mr. X and Mrs. X are taxpayers. So lagay natin yung gross gift natin. 1.6 million divided by 2, that's 800,000 for Mr. X, 800,000 for Mrs. X. Okay, less natin yung mortgage. Since inassume ni Donnie yan, babayaran ni Donnie yan. So hindi siya donation, tama? 400,000 yung mortgage, divide natin by 2, 200,000, 200,000. Yung net gift natin, 800 minus 200, that's 600,000. And then 600,000 for Mrs. X. Okay, next is, don't forget yung prior gift. Okay, so how much na yung prior gift dito ni Mr. X? Actually, pwede mong gamitin class ito. Yung 1,275,000. Tama lang? Okay, so 1,2, tama ba? Prior gift, hindi yata 1,275. Ito pala, yung 1,525,000. Kasi anong nangyari dito class, si Mr. X, nag-donate siya ng 525 noong January 15, nag-donate siya ng 1 million noong March 15, so total is 1,525,000. Cumulative lagi, no? 1,525,000. Si Mrs. X naman, nag-donate siya ng 525 noong January 15 plus 700, so total niya is 1,225,000. Okay? Pwede mong gamitin yung previous na computation natin, yung total nun. This is 1,225,000. Okay, so 1,225,000. Add natin class, 600,000 plus 1,525,000. This is 2,125,000. This is your total gifts for the year. Kay Mrs. X naman, 600,000 plus 1,225, 1,825,000. Don't forget yung exempt na 250. Okay, so minus 250 for Mr. X, minus 250 for Mrs. X. Okay. 2,125,000 minus 250. Yung taxable donation natin for Mr. X is 1,875. Yung taxable natin. Kay Mrs. X naman class, 1,825,000 minus 250, you get 1,575,000. 1,575,000. Okay. Multiply natin by 6%. So multiply by 6% for Mr. X and Mrs. X. 1,875,000 times 0.06, 1,125,000. This is the donor's tax due for Mr. X. 1,575,000 times 0.06, 94,500 for Mrs. X. Don't forget, i-deduct yung mga lahat ng binayad. Okay, yung paid by Mr. X. Nasaan na yun? Nagbayad siya ng 16,500, nagbayad siya ng 60,000, so that's 76,500. Okay, 76,500. So 1,125,000 minus 76,500, yung income tax or donor's tax payable. Okay, nami-mix up ko yung donor's tax and income tax. Anyway, so 36,000 for Mr. X. Kay Mrs. X, nagbayad siya ng 16,500 plus 42,000, so that's ilan yan? 58,500. Okay, 94,500 minus 58,500. 94,500 minus 58,500, answer 36,000. 36,000 for Mrs. X. Ayan. So that's for year 2020. Got it? Okay. Okay lang ba class? Dito ko lang gawin yung 2021. So i-erase ko na lang to. Okay, so erase na lang natin to. So make sure na na-compute nyo, na nasulat nyo yung solution natin. So gawin natin 2021. So i-erase ko na to. Ito na natin gawin para hindi nakakalito. Okay, so 2021 tayo. And then, ano yung first transaction natin? Okay, so Feb 15 to F, nephew, a motorcycle worth 800,000 embodied in the will of Mr. X. Pag embodied in the will of Mr. X, ibig sabihin ng estate tax. Nasa last will and testament ni Mr. X. So hindi yan subject to donor's tax, estate tax yan. Okay? Yung term natin doon is mortis causa. Okay? Matatransfer yun pag namatay si Mr. X. April 15 to Barangay Teachers Village, a vacant lot with a fair market value of 250,000. So this one is donation to government. To local government naman to, no? So exempt din yan from donor's tax. June 15 to Mr. X's parents as golden anniversary gifts, cash for 1,950,000. So again, conjugal property yan, 1,950 divided by 2, 975,000. So dalawa yung taxpayers natin dyan. So yung gross gift natin is 975,000 for Mr. X, 975,000 for Mrs. X. Okay. And then class, hindi mo na ilalagay dyan yung prior gift. Bakit sir? Kasi ibang year na yan. Tandaan mo, yung cumulative mo is for that year lang. Kanina, ginawa natin for year 2020. Ina-add natin yung mga prior gift. Tama? Ngayon, 2021 na to, start from scratch ka ulit. Parang ganun. Okay, so in this case, minus na natin yung exempt na 250. Minus 250. Minus 250 for both of them. So 975 minus 250, this is 725,000. Mr. X and Mrs. X. Ito yung taxable gift. Multiply natin by 6%. Okay? Let's compute. 725,000 times 6%. You have 43,500. 43,500 for Mr. X. 43,500 for Mrs. X. Ito yung donor's tax payable. Okay? Next, August 15 to G, the driver, a second-hand car worth 350,000. The donation was made orally. Since then, the driver had taken possession. Tandaan nyo, meron tayong discuss ko sa start, meron tayong required na forms. Okay? Pag personal property, 5,000 or less, oral or written, okay lang. In this case, 350,000. So obviously, mas malaki sa 5,000. This should be in writing. Pero nakalagay dyan, made orally, this one is a void donation. Wala nangyari donation in the first place. So yung August 15 na yan, this is invalid. Okay? So, this is not subject to donor's tax. Kasi walang donation in the first place. September 15 to their sons, HNI, on account of their graduation, rest house in Tagaytay valued at 3.2 million, with a cost of 2.4 million. So this is September 15. Okay? So dalawang taxpayers natin, si Mr. X and Mrs. X. So lagay ko lang yung date kanina. This is June 15. Okay, so gross gift muna, divide natin by 2. 3.2 million divided by 2, that's 1.6 million for Mr. X, 1.6 million for Mrs. X. Yung cost, ignore mo lang yan. No? Prior gift natin, so ito siya. Prior gift is yung 975,000. So add natin, 975 for Mr. X, 975 for Mrs. X. 1.6 million plus 975, 2,575,000. 2,575,000. This is our total gifts. Okay, minus natin yung exempt gift natin na 250. Minus 250. Okay? Let's compute for the taxable gift. So 2,575 minus 250, you get 2,325,000. 2,325,000 for Mr. X, 2,325,000 for Mrs. X. Multiply natin by 6% to get the donor's tax due. 2,325,000 times 0.06, 139,500. 139,500. Ito yung donor's tax due natin. Minus natin class yung binayad. Okay, how much yung binayad? 43,500 for Mr. X. I think same lang naman for Mrs. X. Therefore, donor's tax payable natin, 139,500 minus 43,500, you get 96,000. 96,000 for Mr. X, 96,000 for Mrs. X. Donor's tax payable. Okay. Ayan. So that's your answer for number 2. Problem number 2. So kasi if nakafollow ka dyan, basically ganyan na mag-compute ang donor's tax. Number 3, okay na tayo. Let's go to number 4. But before number 4, basahin mo natin yung the rest of the G-sheets. Okay. Valuation methods. Letter A. Nakalagay dyan. So how do we value? Kasi yung donation na yung class, it should be measured at fair market value. Tama? Pag real properties, nakalagay, real properties are valued at assessed, appraised, or zonal value, whichever is higher, or whichever is highest. Pinamataas. Siyempre, mas mataas, mas okay kay BIR yun. Mas mataas, mas malaki yung subject to donor's tax. Tama lang? Personal properties are valued at current market price or fair market value. Pag shares of stocks, pag traded, average ng high and low. Pag hindi traded, book value method yung gagamitin natin. Previously, net asset method yan. Okay? Pero ngayon, book value method na gagamitin. Again, applicable lang to kapag hindi traded yung shares. Okay? Rules to observe. A. As a rule, the value of the property or right donated shall be the fair market value at the time of donation. Yun yung general rule. Fair market value at the time of donation. The time to value is the moment when the donation has been completed and perfected. Pag na-deliver na and na-accept na, so pag yung date na na-perfect yung donation, yun, kung ano yung fair market value nun, yun yung gagamitin natin. And the letter C, when the donation is subject to suspensive condition, the value of the gift is to be determined only at the time when the stipulated and condition is fulfilled, subject to the acceptance. So, alam mo na yung suspensive condition. So, I think, ibig sabihin nun yung i-donate mo siya kapag, let's say, okay, i-donate ko sa ito kapag pumasa ka sa SIPALE. Pag pumasa ka sa SIPALE, yun yung moment na, yung date nun, okay, yung fair market value ng date na pumasa ka, yun yung gagamitin natin. Okay? So, yun yung mga rules natin. Okay, for number 4, compute the total taxes due upon sale of 100 shares, assuming Mr. X donated 500,000 worth of personal properties at the start of the year. Basahin natin yung given. On January 1, 2021, Mr. X, a resident citizen, engaged in business of selling laptops, purchased 100 common shares of ABC Corporation, a privately owned domestic company. Again, pag yung shares traded, average. Pag not traded, book value method yung gagamitin natin. Okay? So in this case, well, privately owned, so book value method. For 600 per share, binili niya 600 per share. Lagay mo diyang class, yung cost dito ay 600. Alright? And then, on July 1, 2021, he sold all the shares for 700. Yung 700, that's your selling price. Okay? At the time of the sale, the following financial information are made available. So, meron kang current assets, take note, nakalagay book value, fair market value, ayan. Meron kang non-current assets, okay, for land, building, current liabilities, non-current liabilities. Meron ka din preferred shares. Okay? Outstanding shares, 15,000. Compute the total taxes due upon sale of 100 shares, assuming Mr. X donated 500,000 worth of personal properties at the start of the year. So yung 500,000 na yung class, yun yung prior gifts. Okay? Prior gifts yan. Mamaya i-consider natin yan. Alright? So gagawin ko class dito, papakita ko sa inyo kung paano yung book value method and adjusted net asset method. Pero again, pag sa board exam class, kasi dati lang yung adjusted net asset. Okay? Sa boards, book value gagamitin mo. Yes, in case hindi lumabas sa choices, gamitin mo yung adjusted net asset method. Okay? Papakita ko both para malinaw. Sige, so let's go to number 4, book value method. Ganito yung concept ng book value method. So, kailangan natin malaman, class, kung, di ba, binenta niya dyan yung shares, 700 pesos per share. Okay, 700 times 100, that is selling price ng 70,000 basically. Okay, so lagay ko dito, selling price, 70,000. And then, yung cost is, how much? 600,000. Tama lang? So, binili daw niya for 600. Ngayon, class, 60,000 pala. So, yung cost natin is 60,000. Okay. Ngayon, alamin natin, reasonable ba yan? Iko-compare natin yan sa fair market value. How do you know the fair market value of the shares kapag unlisted? Kapag unlisted, i-estimate natin siya using the book value method. Okay? Yung book value method, class, actually, related yan sa topic nyo sa FAR, yung book value per share. Ganun yung gagawin natin approach dito. Okay? So, ganito gagawin ko dyan, class. Since book value yan, i-ignore ko lang yung fair market value. Okay? Sige. So, lagyan natin yung assets. Meron tayong assets yung class, di ba? Meron tayong current assets and then non-current. Add natin. Sabayan nyo mag-compute. 5.8 million plus 2.5 million land. Okay, so current assets 5.8, land 1 2.5, land 2 1 million, building 1 1.2, building 2 750. Na-compute nyo yung 11,250,000. Yes, ito yung book value of the assets. And then minus natin yung liabilities. Book value of the liabilities 2,750 current, non-current is 2,750. You get 5.5 million. Okay? Tama? So 5.5 million. Minus ko yan. And then ma-minus ko din, class, yung preferred shares. Okay? Kung maalala nyo yung topic natin sa FAR, okay, book value per share, di ba tinatanggal mo yung preferred shares, mga dividends, and so on. Kasi gusto natin computing, class, yung book value para sa common shares. Tanda mo, ang kino-compute natin sa mga common shareholders. Kaya tatanggalin mo yung preferred shares. Got it? So minus natin yung 1 million na preferred shares. So ibig sabihin, yung book value is, so 11,250 minus 5.5 minus 1, ayan, 4,750,000. Okay? Ito yung book value of the common shares. Ngayon, kung meron tayong 15,000 shares, nakita nyo dyan, class, outstanding shares 15,000, ibig sabihin, ito yung book value per share natin. 4,750 divided by 15,000, 316.67 per share. Okay? Lagay ko BVPS, book value per share, 316.67. Got it? Now, tingnan natin. Kumpitin natin yan, ha? Meron tayong, kukumpitin natin yung class, yung fair market value. Nagbenta tayo, ilang shares yung binenta natin? 100, tama? 100 times 316.67, 316.67 times 100, well, 31667 yun. So 31, i-round up na natin ito, class, para hindi magulo. 316.67, gawin natin 317, okay, para malinaw. Okay, 317. 317 times 100, yung fair market value, okay, is 31,700. So 31,700, yung fair market value of shares, binenta natin yan for 70,000. So ibig sabihin, class, the selling price is greater than the fair market value. Wala tayong problema. Okay? Walang donor's tax yan. Kasi hindi yan transfer for insufficient consideration. Okay? Kasi pag insufficient, dapat mababa yung selling price. In this case, wala tayong donor's tax. Got it? Pero meron tayong capital gains tax. Bakit, sir? Kasi sale of unlisted shares yan. Naalala yung capital gains tax natin, yun yung 15% na flat rate. Okay? Paano natin kukumpitin yun? So meron kang selling price, and then meron kang cost, which is 60,000. Okay, 60,000. Selling price minus the cost. Okay, 10,000, meron tayong gain. Tama? 10,000 gain. Kung maalala nyo, class, yung 15% na capital gains tax natin on sale of unlisted shares based siya sa gain. Okay? So in this case, 10,000 times 15%. Okay, 10,000 times 15%, you get 1,500. 1,500 capital gains tax. Kasi, class, ang requirement sa atin dyan, pinapakompute sa atin, compute the total taxes due. Okay, upon sale of 100 shares. Actually, sagutan natin dito, class. Yung babayaran natin under the book value method is 1,500 capital gains tax. So, wala tayong babayaran na donor's tax. Okay? Ngayon, if ever mas mataas yung fair market value than the selling price, magbabayad tayo ng donor's tax. Actually, kapag in-apply natin yung net asset method, okay, mas mataas yan. So, papakita ko sa inyo. So, yun yung book value method. Yung second method natin is adjusted net asset method. Net asset method. Okay? Adjusted net asset method. So, paano yan, sir? Fair market value naman yung importante sa atin. So, meron tayong assets at fair market value. Kumpitin natin, class, ha? Di ba meron tayong current assets na 5.2 million? Tama? 5.2 million. Ngayon, class, yung non-current assets, pipiliin natin dyan ano yung highest. Tanda mo, gusto ni BIR, mas mataas yung donor's tax. Okay, land 1, mas mataas yung zonal value, add natin yan. So 5.2 million yung current assets, add mo yung zonal value of land 1, 8,750. Land 2 naman, mas mataas yung appraised value, plus 2,250. Building 1, mas mataas yung assessed value, plus 4.8. Building 2, mas mataas yung appraised value plus 3,450. Yung assets natin class, you should get 24,450,000 at fair market value. 24,450,000. Okay? Yung liabilities natin, fair market value, nakalagay dyan, current liabilities 3.3, non-current to 420, you have 5,720,000. 5,720,000. Okay? And then meron tayong preferred shares. Well, same lang naman yan. Walang binigay na fair market value. So, ibig sabihin, book value is equal to fair market value. Okay, 24,450,000 minus 5,720 minus 1 million, you get 17,730,000. Okay, 17,730,000. So, ito yung net assets natin at fair market value. Okay, divide natin yung class by 15,000 shares. Alright, 17,730 divided by 15,000, you get 1,182 per share. Okay, sabihin natin na ito yung fair value per share, 1,182. Okay, so kung titignan natin class, yung fair market value natin, nagbenta tayo ng 100 shares. 1,182 times 100, you get 1,18200. Tama? 118, lagyan natin ng space. Kukompute tayo ng donor stocks. So, fair market value of the shares na binenta natin, 118,200. Okay? Yung selling price is only 70,000. So, ano tawag natin dyan? Transfer for insufficient consideration. 118,200 minus 70,000. Yung 48,200 is subject to donor stocks. Got it? Pero syempre class, yung cost natin na 60,000, yung difference niyan na 10,000 subject to CGT. Tama? Which is 1.5. So 1.5 pa rin yan. May CGT pa rin tayo na 1.5. Got it? And then meron tayong donor stocks na 48,000. Meron tayong donation na 48,200 na subject to donor stocks. Let's compute the donor stocks. Ganito gagawin ko dyan class. Meron akong 48,200. Tama? Yun yung gross gift natin. 48,200. Add ko yung prior gift. Nasaan yung prior gift class? Ayun, nasa last sentence. Assuming Mr. X donated 500,000 worth of personal properties at the start of the year. Prior gift yan. Okay, add natin yan. You get $500,000. So, yung total gift natin is 548,200. Okay? Minus natin yung exempt na 250,000. 548,200 minus 250,000, you get 298,200. Yung taxable gift natin, 298,200. Okay, multiply natin by 6%. Okay, donor stocks natin, 298,200 times 0.06, 17,892. Ayun. So, meron tayong donor stocks na 17,892. Meron tayong CGT na 1.5. Yung total natin class for adjusted net asset method plus 1.5, 19,392. Okay, so total, kasi total taxes yung tanong eh. So, 19,392. Ito yung final answer natin. Okay, so ulitin ko, under book value method, ang final answer natin, 1.5, which is the capital gains tax. Adjusted net asset method, meron tayong CGT na 1.5 pa rin. Meron tayong donor stocks na 17,892 for a total of 19,392. Pero again, class, actually, yung under RR number 2020 book value method. Kasi class, in practice, sobrang hirap na i-determine pa yung fair market value of the asset. So imagine, magdo-donate ka na lang, tapos, papakompute pa sa yung fair market value ng assets liabilities mo, di ba? So, sobrang impractical yan sa real life practice. Kaya sabi ni BIR, sige, book value method na lang gamitin nyo sa pag-compute. Get it? Okay. Okay, so that's the last problem. Let's finish this by answering our handouts, theory questions ng handouts natin. Sige. But before that, meron tayong dalawang corrections class sa theory, no? Actually, choices yung corrections. So, i-correct muna natin para tuloy-tuloy yung discussion natin. Punta ka dun sa theory number 7, choice C. Okay? Theory number 7, choice C. Nakalagay dyan, 3 of the above statements are false. Gawin mong 3 of the above statements are true. Okay, yung false, gawin mo true. Okay? Again, number 7, theory number 7, choice C. And then yung isa pa, theory number 25, okay? Theory number 25, choice D or dog. Okay? Theory number 25, choice dog. All of the above statements are true, gawin mo all of the above statements are false. Okay, so i-correct mo natin para dire-diretso yung pagsagot natin. Okay, so let's answer the theory questions. Number 1, an act of liberality whereby one disposes gratuitously of a thing or right in favor of another who accepts it. Again, tawag natin dyan is donation, letter B for number 1. Number 2, a tax imposed on the gratuitous transfer between two persons who are living. Dapat buhay silang pareho. No? Ang tawag nito inter vivos, tama? And then yung tax na yun is donor's tax, dog, letter D. The following are the requisites of a donation for purposes of the donor's tax, except capacity of the donor, yes. Capacity of the donee, no. Boy yung sagot. Delivery of the gift, yes. Donative intent, yes. Boy for number 3. For number 4, for the donation to be considered valid, acceptance of the donation must be made. Letter C, donation of, during the lifetime of the donor or the donee. Okay, but again, it must be made between two living persons. Alright? So kapag patay yung isa, si donor, okay, hindi na donation yan. Okay? So again, hindi pa sa donor, okay? Magiging subject to estate tax yun. So letter C yung answer for number 4. Number 5, statement 1, donation is perfected from the time the donee has accepted the donation. False. Magiging perfected siya when the donor knows of the acceptance of the donee. Okay? Pag alam na ni donor na inaccept na din ng donee, false yung statement 1. Statement 2, donations made to conceived and unborn children are not allowed. False. Allowed yan. Okay? As long as, syempre, well, ano pa lang yan, incapacitated yan. Pero pwede na agad mag-accept ng donation. Okay? So, i-accept niya ng representatives niya. Okay? Nung, let's say, parents niya. Alright? Statement 3, so false yung statement 2. Statement 3, in all cases, void donations are not subject to donor's tax. True. Kasi kapag void yung donation, walang donation in the first place. So, bakit kang magbabayad ng donor's tax? False, false, true. Answer is A. Only one of the above statements is true. Let's go to number 6. A wrote a letter to B on December 31, 2020, donating his car worth 350,000. The letter received by the latter on January 10, who accepted the donation. The letter of acceptance was received only by A. Si A yung donor. On January 17, the donor's tax was not paid until March 20. Kailan na-consummate or na-perfect yung donation? Nung nag-acknowledge na si donor, na-acceptance si donee, which is January 17. Okay? Letter C. Number 7, statement 1, donor's tax shall be levied, assessed, collected, and paid upon the transfer of property by any person, resident, non-resident, as a gift. True. Statement 2, donor's tax is a property tax. False. Donor's tax is an excise tax. Statement 3, donor's tax is an excise tax. Yes, true yan. Statement 4, the donor's tax shall apply whether the transfer is in trust or otherwise, whether the gift is direct, indirect, real, personal, tangible, intangible. True. Okay? Letter C, 3 of the above statements are true. Number 8, statement 1, donative intent is required for both direct and indirect gifts. Actually, class, false yan. Yung donative intent, required lang siya sa direct. Bakit, sir? Kasi, class, yung example natin kanina, kapag yung fair market value mo, mas mataas sa selling price, di ba may subject to donor's tax yan? Itong 48.2, subject to donor's tax yan. This one is a indirect gift. Hindi naman talaga gift yan kasi binenta mo eh. Binenta mo siya. Kaya lang, yung selling price mo, mas mababa sa fair market value. So, indirect gift yan. Hindi mo kailangan ng donative intent dyan. Dito sa problem mo yan, hindi mo naman intention na mag-donate. Okay? Ang intention mo is ibenta yung shares. That's why yung statement 1 is incorrect because the donative intent is only required for direct gifts. Okay? False yung statement 1. Statement 2, donation of real property must be made in a public document specifying the property donated. True. Such as deed of donation, yung gagamitin mo dyan. Statement 3, the acceptance may be made in the same deed of donation or in a separate public instrument, but it shall not take effect unless it is done during the life of the donor. That's true. Pwedeng same instrument or different instrument, separate instrument. Statement 4, if the acceptance made in a separate instrument, the donor shall be notified thereof in an authentic form and this step shall be noted in both instruments. Correct yan. False, true, true, true. Letter A yung sagot. Only one of the above statements is false. Number 9, statement 1, the donation of movable property amounting to 5,000 or below may be made orally or in writing. True. Statement 2, the donation of an immovable property shall be made in public instrument regardless of the amount. True din yan. Statement 3, the donation and acceptance should be in writing if the value of the property is at least 5,000. Yung nagpamali sa statement 3, nakalagay at least. Okay? Pag personal property ka, exceeding 5,000. Okay? Hindi at least. 5,000 or below, pwedeng oral yan. Okay? So, false yung statement 3. True, true, false. Answer is boy. 2 of the above statements are true. Number 10. One of the following is a valid donation. A, oral donation of a passenger jeepney worth 100. Yung jeepney is a personal property, nag-exceed ng 5,000. So, dapat in written yan or in writing yan. So, A is not a valid donation. A parcel of land worth 5,000 is private document. Hindi private document, public document yan. Okay? So, hindi rin valid donation yung B. Oral donation of an air conditioner worth 4,000. Yes, 5,000 or less, pwedeng oral yan. C yung sagot. A parcel of land worth 1 million is private document. Again, pag land, public document. So C for number 10. Number 11, which of the following is false? The gross gift of an NRA. Okay, pag NRA, within the Philippines lang yan. Will include all intangible properties situated in the Philippines. True. Will include all intangible properties regardless of the location. False. Within lang. Okay, false. Boy yung sagot. Number 11. C, with reciprocity will not include all intangible properties regardless of location. True yun, pag with reciprocity. Pag without reciprocity, will not include outside the Philippines. Yes. Okay, tama yan. Within the Philippines lang. So for number 11, that's boy. Number 12, which of the following is not considered an intangible property? Franchise, yes. Obligation for bonds, okay, with situs in the Philippines. So very explicit na may situs in the Philippines. So within yan, tama? Shares of stock issued by a foreign corporation, 51% of the business is located in the Philippines. Yung rule dito, class, 85%. So kaya yung C na yan, without the Philippines yan. So lagay mo dyan, instead of 51, it should be 85%. At least 85%. Shares of stock issued by a domestic, well, within the Philippines yun, kasi domestic corporation. C for number 12. Number 13, statement 1. The gross gift of a donor who is a non-resident alien will include all properties regardless of location. False, within the Philippines lang. Statement 2. The gross gifts of a donor who is a non-resident alien will include only property located in the Philippines. True. Statement 3. The reciprocity clause in the donor's tax law applies only to NRA. True. The reciprocity clause in the donor's tax law applies to tangible and intangible. False. Sa intangible lang yun. Okay? False, true. True, false. Answer is boy. Two of the above statements are true. Okay. So easy na yung mga theory. Pag kaya mo sagutan yung mga problems na yan. One of the following is subject to donor's tax. A. Donation inter vivos to Catholic Church. Nope. B. Remission of debt where the debtor did not render services. Yes. Condonation or forgiveness yan eh. Okay? So ibig sabihin, subject to donor's tax yan. Boy yung sagot natin dyan. C. Donation inter vivos to International Rights Research Institute. Actually, nandito yan sa special laws. No? Exemption yan. Under special laws. So yung hindi siya subject to donor's tax. Cash contribution to a political candidate, duly reported. So nireport daw sa COMELEC. So hindi subject to donor's tax. Boy for number 14. Number 15, all of the following except one are exempt. So alin daw dito class yung taxable? A. Donation to Philippine Red Cross, exempt. Donation to Development Academy of the Philippines, exempt. Donation of cash to Cebu City or for public use or to government, exempt. Donation directly given to victims of the eruption of Mount Mayon. O yun, subject to donor's tax yan. Wala yan sa exempt natin na nakalista dito sa G-sheets natin. So dog for number 15. Number 16, which of the following renunciation shall not be subject to donor's tax? Okay, so ito yung kanina, yung in-explain ko na matagal ko din-discuss. A, alin daw dito yung hindi subject? Renunciation by the surviving spouse, officer share in the conjugal partnership or absolute community after the dissolution in favor of the heirs of the deceased spouse or any other persons. Okay, so subject to donor's tax yan, whether specific or general. Boy, general renunciation by heir, including the surviving spouse, officer or share in the hereditary estate left by the decedent. Pag general renunciation, hindi yan subject to donor's tax. Okay? Pag specific, yun. Letter C. So boy yung sagot sa number 16. C. Renunciation by an heir, including the surviving spouse, officer or share in the hereditary estate left by the decedent, categorically in favor of the identified heirs. Ibig sabihin, specific renunciation. So yung letter C is subject to donor's tax. Boy for number 16. Number 17, statement 1, as a rule, donations to candidates or local and national elections are not subject to donor's tax. True. Okay? Pero syempre dapat report yun sa COMELEC yan. True yan for number 1. Statement 2, donation to political party is not subject to donor's tax if it is reported by the donor to COMELEC. Yes. True. When the donee is exempt from income tax, the donation made by a taxable individual is also tax exempt. False. Una-una, si donor yung may liability sa donor's tax. Walang kinalaman ng income tax sa donor's tax. Magkahiwala yan. Okay? False yung 3. Proceeds of life insurance of the life of the decedent where the designation is irrevocable is always subject to donor's tax. Well, yung proceeds from life insurance, hindi sa subject sa income tax, hindi rin yung subject sa donor's tax. Alright? True, true, false, false. Answer is boy. Two of the above statements are true. Number 18. Marami talaga akong nilagay na theory questions sa donor's tax class, no? Number 18, statement 1, a donation by husband and wife jointly for conjugal property will require two separate computations. True. Yan, ginawa natin kanina. Separate computations yan. Statement 2, if the property donated is a community property, pag sinabing community, erase ko na pala, pag community or conjugal, jointly owned yan, okay? Each of them is reconsidered as a donor, officer or share, shall be liable for whatever tax. Yes, separate computation. True din yung statement 2. Statement 3, as a rule, a donation inter vivos between spouses is voidable. Void yan. Okay, false. True, true, false. Boy yung sagot natin for number 18. Number 19, what is the implication if a corporation condones debt of a stockholder because of a good thing done by the latter? So pag ganun, since may nirender na service si stockholder, form of dividend yun. Okay, hindi yan donor, subject to donor's tax. Kaya answer dito class is dog. It is tantamount to declaration of dividend, therefore it is subject to 10% dividend tax. Okay? Ngayon, kapag walang ginawa si stockholder, yun, condonation yun, subject to donor's tax yun. Magiging A yung sagot natin pag ganun. Since dito nakalagay, because of a good thing done by the latter, subject to dividend tax yun. Dog for number 19. Number 20, ilan to? 30 lang yata ito ba? So malapit na, ha? Number 20, which of the following donations result to a net gift of 80,000? A. The daughter of A was married to her boyfriend. As a gift, A donated cash worth 90,000 to his daughter. Actually, class dati, I remember merong tinatawag na dowry. Okay, yung dowry, pag donation, tax ano yan, deduction siya. I think 10,000 yun eh. Kaya 90 minus 10, 80,000. Kaya lang, yung dowry, dati pa yun. Okay, under train law, tinanggal na yan. No? So, letter A, hindi yan. Kasi tinatanong dito, alin doon yung 80,000 eh. So, A, 90,000 yan. So, hindi yan. Property worth 80,000 donated to Teachers Village. It's a government, local government, so exempt yan. Walang taxable dyan. C, a donated property to B with a fair market value of 140. The property is subject to mortgage indebtedness which was paid by the donor. Hindi natin i-minus yung mortgage. I-minus mo lang yung mortgage if inassume ni donee yan. Okay? In this case, hindi naman inassume ni donee. So yung gross gift or net gift mo sa C or gross gift mo rin is 140. Letter D yung sagot. A requested B to pay A's liability with C in the amount of 100 and in return, the personal property of A valued at 180 will be donated to B. Binayaran ni B yung utang ni A. Okay? Ngayon, ang ginawa ni A, o sige, sa'yo na yung personal property ko worth 180. So yung 180 and 100, pwede mong isipin na yung selling price is 100, 180 is the fair market value. Parang ganun. So ibig sabihin, transfer for insufficient consideration. In that case, yung difference na 80,000 is taxable, subject to donor's tax. Gets? For 20, it's dog. When a property is donated, the basis of the donor's tax is, answer natin dito class C, laging fair market value at the time of donation. Letter C for number 21. 22, statement 1, a donated real property can be registered in the name of the donee even if the donor's tax thereon had not been paid. False. Naalala nyo, sinabi ko kanina earlier sa lecture natin, dapat bayad mo na lahat ng taxes. Real property tax, donor's tax, bayaran mo na yan before ka magpa-transfer ng title sa Registry of Deeds. Okay? So false yung statement 1. Statement 2, in the case of deficiency donor's tax, the donee shall be required to pay the tax. No, laging si donor yung liable dyan. Okay? False. Statement 3, only one return shall be filed for several gifts by a donor to the return on the same date. True yan. Okay? True. Same date eh. Okay? So isama-sama mo na yung dinonate mo. Statement 4, if the donation involves conjugal or community property, each spouse shall file separate return. True. Separate computation, separate return. False, false, true, true. Boy yung sagot natin. Two of the above statements are true. Number 23, donor's tax return shall be filed within, FYI, letter C yan, 30 days after the gift has been made. So kung kailan na perfect yung donation, bilang ka ng 30 days, yun yung deadline, okay? Filing. 24, Mr. X, resident alien, donated piece of jewelry to his son who got married on January 15. The piece of jewelry was mailed on January 10 and was received and accepted on January 20, perfected on January 20. Kailan daw yung last day? 30 days, tama? So January 20, so may ibig sabihin, answer dito is Feb 19. So meron kang 11 days pa sa January plus 19 days sa Feb, ayun, Feb 19. C for number 24. Okay, malapit na. 25, statement 1, the income tax on the income of the donated property after the donation but before the registration of the name of the donee shall be the liability of the donee, laging si donor. False. Okay? Statement 2, the 30-day period for filing the donor's tax return and payment of tax shall commence after the gift is made even if the donated property has not yet been delivered to the donee. False. Kasi pag walang delivery, wala pang donation. Required na may delivery tayo before maging perfected yung donation. False din yan. Statement 3, the donor's tax return shall be filed at the place of the residence of the donor or of the donee at the option of the donor. False. Residence of the donor yan. Walang option yan. False, false, false. Answer is D. All of the above statements are false. Okay, malapit na class. 26, statement 1, when a property that has been subjected to final capital gains tax in 6% is transferred for less than and full consideration in money, the amount by which the fair market value exceeds the actual consideration shall be deemed gift and shall be included in the computation of gifts. Hindi. Kapag subject to 6% CGT, okay, sale of real property, capital asset, selling price or fair market value whichever is higher. So wala kang, hindi mo matatakasan to kasi pipiliin mo whichever is higher. Alright? So false yan, excluded yan, hindi yan subject to donor's tax. False yung statement 1. Statement 2, A purchased a house and lot in 2020 for 5 million. In 2021, A decided to sell the house and lot for 2 million. Although its fair market value is 7 million. So again, house and lot yan. So it's a real property subject to 6% CGT. The 5 million difference is subject to donor's tax. False. Exempt yan. Statement 3, a donation inter vivos by the husband and wife jointly during the marriage is a donation of each spouse. Requires separate computation. True. Statement 4, A sold his car. Personal property. Okay? Costing 3 million for 5 million. The fair market value is 9. So yung difference ng fair market value and selling price, 9 million minus 5 million, the 4 million is subject to donor's tax. True. False, false, true, true. Boy. Two of the above statements are true. The rule on transfer of inadequate consideration or transfer for insufficient consideration does not apply to delivery truck, applicable yan. Vacant lot, hindi. Kasi real property yan, subject to 6% CGT. Apartment house, ordinary asset. Jewelry for personal use, other capital asset. So yung A is ordinary asset, B is capital asset subject to donors, subject to 6% CGT. Okay, apartment house is ordinary asset, yung D is other capital asset. So yung boy yung sagot natin, hindi yan subject to donors tax. Number 28, which of the following is not a deduction? Unpaid mortgage assumed by the donee, yes. Diminution of the donated property, yes. Unpaid donors tax, false. Okay? Hindi yan ma-minus dun sa gross gift to get the net gift. D, unpaid real estate tax assumed by the donee. Pag nag-assume si donee, yes yan. C for number 28. Okay, last two items. Number 29, when a donor's tax return was filed and it was found out by the BIR to have errors, the donor might be required to pay the deficiency tax. Yes. Okay, the government is not bound by any agreement between the donor and the donee that the latter shall pay the donor's tax instead of the former. That's also correct. No? Pag si donee yung mag-assume ng donor's tax, usapan lang nila ni donor yon. Pero sa point of view ni BIR, si donor lagi yung liable. Okay? Number 30, a tax minimization scheme which is done by spreading the gift over numerous calendar years to avail of the lower tax liability. Ang tawag natin dito kasi splitting the gift. Letter A. Okay? Actually, ano yan? Legal yan. Sir, what do you mean by splitting the gift? Parang dito, 2020, 2021. Ganito yung klase. For example, this is December 31, 2020. Okay? So, ito yung 2020, ito yung 2021. Let's say, magdodonate ako sa'yo ng car. Let's say cash worth 1 million. Ang gagawin ko yan, i-split ko yan in 2 years. Okay? Let's say, ito yung December 30. Ito yung January 1. Magkaibang taon yan, tama? Kung naalala nyo dito, yung computation natin, cumulative for that year. Okay? Ang gagawin ko, dito ako magdodonate ng 500, dito ako magdodonate ng 500. Bakit, sir? Bakit mo in-split? Kasi pwede ko mag-deduct ng dalawang 250 dyan. Nakuha mo yan? So, magiging subject sa donor's tax ko dito is 250. Ngayon, pag dinonate ko versus, pag dinonate ko lahat ng 1 million dito sa 2020, 1 million minus 250, isang beses lang ako makakapag-deduct ng 250. So therefore, dito, mas mataas yung donor's tax na babayaran ko. Pag in-split ko siya, splitting the gift, iiwalay mo sa 2 years, pero ilang araw lang yung difference, 2 days. Okay? Nakatipid ka sa donor's tax. And it's an example of tax minimization, which is allowed by our tax code. Okay? So ayan. So I guess, na-discuss natin lahat sa donor's tax, yung handouts natin. So that's it for donor's tax. Next meeting class, estate tax naman tayo. Okay?